Yes, I just finally received the settlement here today. I just signed the agreement today and got the check. So there it is, it's official. We have resolved the issue in regards to that incident. As far as any other future legal proceedings, so that the city won't be held responsible financially for what their behavior was during the council meeting in, I think it was February 26th or something.
And recount for us what happened that evening.
Well, I totally informed city council and the city government that I was going to do this kind of theater before the city council, in which I was going to disrobe to my boxer shorts, which I did before the meeting even started, and just sat in the front row. And then I proceeded to address the council in my boxers. I also warned them that I was going to speak about some what I called unethical behaviors by the city council, Susie Adjutant taking campaign contributions from developers and architects for the 4 mile, the Sanitas area plan, just as she was running for election and just before she was about to vote on that issue, in which she voted for the developers and the architects' plan. And then I was going to discuss George Karakian's open door policy during the winter and the summer, where he keeps his doors open to his Pearl Street Mall business with his air conditioning on and his heat on, which, by the way, I noticed is still occurring as I walked down the mall last week. But I never got to any of that, and so they basically cut me off immediately when I spoke Susie Adjutant's name. But first of all, before even that, the Open Records head of Open Records, Sandy North, pulled me aside in a private meeting before the council meeting and said, "Don't do this, Seth. We're going to censor you." And I said, "Well, what are you going to censor my chest? You know, big deal." And I said, you know, I'm just using my right to free speech, and I considered wearing my boxers with the naked ordinance being in the forefront of the council minds, especially Ken Wilson's mind. I thought that I was making a statement by wearing my boxers. And so I really never had a chance to say anything before the George Karakian made a signal. Well, first of all, Ken Wilson scratched the mic, which, when the mayor was questioning that I might be making personal attacks, so everything was very confusing, and Ken Wilson didn't help the situation by elevating the confusion. And then George K. motioned to the police officer and the clerk turned off the sound to the mics, and the officer just beelined it to me and handcuffed me and asked me to leave the premises and walk me down and put me in a, you know, actually it was almost like there were 4 police cars downstairs, and I was sent to the Boulder County Jail.
So when it comes down to all of it, obviously being arrested and handcuffed in public is a bad thing, but in terms of the bigger picture for you, what really strikes at you that went wrong that evening?
Well, what went wrong that evening is that I have always tried to maintain my honesty as far as what I'm going to say, and so it should have never been a shock to anyone. And obviously, what's sad is that the city council has an elitist attitude, as well as a very hard time swallowing criticism of their actions, whether it be policy or whether it be their individual actions. And as Susan Osborne has proven just in an article in the BlueLine.org, or I think it's BoulderBlueLine.org, in which she criticized the Daily Camera for overly attacking Macon Cowles and city council and city government. And then, lo and behold, Macon Cowles gets caught after that with a reassessment of his home, which was 3 times less than the value that he's selling it for. So I think the city council should just, like I said before, and I apologize to Susan Osborne, during that moment where I was arrested, where I told her she should pipe down and allow people to use their free speech rights. I apologized at that time, but obviously the city council needs to pipe down and listen to the public participation, because these are people who are actually interested and informed and are actually part of the process, which is not the norm with any constituency, whether it be Boulder or the state or the nation. Most people are uninformed, and they don't participate. And what the city council seems to like to do is just to listen to people who adore them and give them positive reinforcement. And perhaps that's the way to get things done in this city, is to basically be a lapdog to the city council, and perhaps you'll get your little pet project done. But my attitude is question authority and question city council, question government, and but I believe in government, and that's why I continue to come back, and I'll continue to come back. And despite this little settlement, I'm not just going to go away. I didn't go away during the negotiations, when probably a lot of people thought that it was unwise for me to be speaking out and saying critical things about city council, that I was still being antagonizing, even after I had the possibility of making more than $10,000. This is really a drop in the bucket. I'm sure the city of Boulder is insured. They aren't going to pay a price for this. But it is a statement, because they had to write a check, which proves that they knew that if they really wanted to proceed with this, they were going to be found in fault. And so I would just advise everyone to stand up for their rights. And there's plenty of Boulderites, plenty of residents, current and longtime residents, that really are progressive and are informed, and will support you. And I've had a lot of supporters. Just today I was running on the Boulder Creek, jogging, and a biker was driving the other way, and he goes, "Seth, great job," and he gave me a high five. You know, so obviously there are people out there that understand that I wasn't just making a mockery of city government, that I wasn't just tooting my own horn, that I had a point to make, and I will continue to have points to make. And sometimes I like attention, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'd rather not be here, sometimes I don't come. And at one point I didn't want to come, and then they proposed these decorum rules, which outraged me, and you know, I had to come back. And so every time that the city and the city council does something outrageous and ridiculous, it only instigates more motivation, because I have a mental illness. I've been tortured in my life. I've seen injustice done personally to myself, and I have great empathy for those that have gone through hard times, that have been oppressed, and luckily I'm tenacious. Otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And thank you for the drop in the bucket. I could use it.